Let's go up to the DMV, man. It's my man from my brother from another mother, my main man, 50 grand. Mark Gray from the Shadow League and the DMV area. What up, Mark? How you doing today, man? How's your holiday going?
It's a cool holiday. There's no buns going on over here either.
No, no,
Yeah, I
no,
took care of my buns over the weekend.
no, no biscuits, no my mama biscuits, and the
I had
long.
plenty of those on Friday and Saturday, but that's a topic for another conversation. And this is a family show.
Yes, sir. It certainly is, man. Thank you for joining us right here on 1210 The Man. We have reached, my friend, and we always get together around this time.
Yes,
Me, you, David Steele, Scoop Jackson from ESPN, and we do our thing, man. We are here once again, and I'm sure we'll be doing a podcast real soon on these NBA finals.
absolutely.
But finally, the basketball gods have blessed the Toronto Raptors. They are in the NBA finals. Who would
They
have thunk
blessed
it?
you. They blessed you too, because now you get to watch the Golden State team win it without the guy you don't want to see win. I mean, you
Well,
know what we're seeing, and I've been thinking about you a lot during the course of the Eastern Conference Finals.
right.
I'm sorry, especially during the Western Conference Finals, was how you was like, well, Golden State doesn't need Kevin Durant to win the championship. He just puts them over the top. And, what we're finding out is when they play basketball the way that they do, with that ISO ball, it is truly a beautiful game. You can say what you want about soccer being the beautiful game when it's played at the highest level, especially during the World Cup. But what Golden State does is play a tremendously beautiful brand of basketball, if you like, in its purest form. They make the extra pass. They play tremendous defense. They've got great shooters, but they also attack the rim.
Hmm.
And then you got on the Toronto side just a warrior. And I just don't think that we really appreciated how great Kawhi Leonard was until this series. I mean, let's be real for a second. You talk about a heroic effort. I don't know if you've ever done anything to your quad before, but the thing about a quad is you never know when it's right.
Right.
You never know. You can wake up in the morning, get out the bed. If there's a tweak, you can fly off from the free throw line and dunk on the 7-footer and come down, and it's going to ail you a little bit. And through it all, Kawhi Leonard had put a team on his back, carried a nation and a loudmouth hip hop celebrity into the finals. It is just an amazing set of ingredients that have come together to give us, a NBA Finals jambalaya, and I can't wait for it to jump off.
Yeah, I'm loving this, man. I'm loving the fact that we got a hip hop star, Drake, all in the mix. And that's when I knew, Mark, that the Milwaukee Bucks were defeated. Because I mean, you're complaining about Drake? Like I was like, yeah, something's not right. These guys just aren't mentally ready. They haven't taken that next step. The Raptors have gone through they've taken their share of licks, as the Pistons did back in the days against the Boston Celtics, and as the Bulls did against the Pistons, and the Pistons against the Lakers. You kind of got to go through a little adversity before you really get to appreciate where you are. And I look at this Raptors franchise, and thanks to LeBron going out west, but certainly they have arrived.
Well, you're right, and I think you really got to give credit to their front office. I mean, I was one of those people who was like, Masai Ujiri was a sellout by dropping a hammer on Dwayne Casey,
Hmm.
who was coach of the year. I felt real bad for DeMar DeRozan going to San Antonio, but DeMar DeRozan ain't no Kawhi Leonard. I mean,
Right.
you can't. He ain't carrying anybody to anybody. He may be a Robin to somebody else's Batman. Kawhi Leonard is Batman, and he never had to be Batman in San Antonio because he always had Tim Duncan, Manu
Hmm.
Ginobili, Tony Parker. So he just kind of got in where he fit in. But if you listen to him closely, he sounds a lot when he talks like Greg Popovich.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
like when you listen to Tom Brady, you hear Bill Belichick. As sickening as it is, that's what you hear.
Mm-hmm.
And when you listen to Kawhi Leonard talk, you hear Greg Popovich. And those two, I've always thought Popovich and Belichick were like, Siamese coaches joined at the, brilliance of getting the most out of their players. And I look at them, I look at Kawhi Leonard right now as, basketball's answer to Tom Brady in terms of the way that he's just taken everything that he learned in San Antonio on those runs and and turned himself into not only the best basketball player who was in that Eastern Conference Finals, but his will just kind of transcended the team, right from his coach, Nick Nurse.
Right.
Because trust and believe, were it not for Kawhi Leonard, Nick Nurse would not look as good as he does right now. And we'd probably be getting ready for Game 7 tonight. And it got so crazy that Mike Budenholzer, who may in fact be coach of the year, looked like he was frustrated and disheveled, particularly in the second half of game number 6 up in Toronto last night. Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
So he had no answers, and that dude's a really good coach. So, sometimes you often think of a team losing a series. Toronto beat Milwaukee. I mean, there's no doubt. And think about it. For all that we've talked about how the balance of power and all that, you've got the number 2 seed from the East taking on the number 1 seed out West. And if you would go with overall playoff seedings based upon regular season record, you got the number 2 seed versus the number 3 seed. What more could you ask for, bro? I mean, everything has shaken out to the point where, and how good does Adam Silver look?
Yeah.
I mean, for first off, you get the draft lottery to fall by the way of a team in New Orleans where you're like, wow, that ain't a big market. So it's Adam Silver's time to shine. And it just, you got the NBA Finals in an international city, which is big for the game. Now, 10, 15 years from now, when Canada knocks off the Dream Team for the gold medal, we're going to be salty about this.
This is a big deal. It really is.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, Kawhi Leonard is the biggest thing to happen in basketball since north of the border since Vince Carter.
Right.
And we know all the great Canadian players, from Jamal McGlure to Andrew Wiggins, who were all Karl Anthony Towns, who were all influenced by the greatness of Vince Carter when he spent his time up there. And now you're going to see this next generation influenced by Kawhi Leonard. They won the championship. I mean, my goodness. I mean, we've stolen hockey. I guess they're going to steal basketball, eh?
No doubt. We're talking to Mark Gray, of course. Follow him on Twitter at The Sports Groove. Mark, I don't know if I have a horse in this race. Like, I like the Raptors. It'd be a great story if they won the championship, but it would be great to see Golden State win without Kevin Durant. That would just make my day. Because KD, of course, joining a 73-win team, I never got over that, as you know. And I love what Chris Broussard said earlier last week when he came out and said this is Durant's worst nightmare coming true. And that it appears that the Warriors are on the verge of doing something great without him.
Yeah, it would definitely, kill his leverage as far as free agency is concerned with that franchise. Because you could rebuild and retool. Now, again, a top 3 player in the world right now is something you just don't let go and replace.
Right.
But they may, with that team is currently constructed, if you keep the core 3, their big 3, Draymond, Steph, and Clay together, you can find a part that you plug in that may not be a 3rd or 4th best player in the world, but let's be real for a second. If you get, a couple of guys that are maybe in the top 10 or top 15 to replenish what you miss from him, you keep it moving. You keep the energy flowing. So,
right.
it's a very interesting situation. I'm a guy that likes history. I would like to see a team win 4 in 5 years. I would like to see a team three-peat just for the sake of, the historical significance of it. But when you get right down to the nuts and bolts, as you said, it's a can't-lose series for the league, man.
Yes.
I mean, they got everything they want. And just think about it, man. I remember I covered the Braves in Atlanta, and I've been thinking a lot about that World Series when Dave Winfield finally was able to get that big hit, and the Blue Jays finally won the World Series.
Right.
And I was standing next to Robbie Alomar in the locker room, and everybody was like saying, "We stopped the chop, we stopped the chop," and I'm thinking that. Where they could do this thing. I would venture to say, if the Toronto Raptors beat this edition of the the Golden State Warriors, they would be the biggest thing in Canada. They would usurp Montreal Canadiens.
Really? That's big. The Canadiens?
I think that they would be bigger than the Canadiens. I think they would be bigger than the Edmonton Oilers with Wayne Gretzky and those guys.
Wow.
I mean, I think that, you know why? Because
why is it?
Hockey, they feel it's the passion for them to always win. Basketball is like America's game. So it was like when Cito Gaston finally series with the Blue Jays.
Right.
Cito Gaston can go from Nova Scotia, who doesn't know anything. That's from the East Coast of Canada to the West Coast. Never a meal for the rest of his life. That same thing will happen if Toronto wins this series. And Kawhi Leonard could be Prime Minister of Canada. They don't need a Trudeau. They need a Kawhi.
That's a great point, because let's say hypothetically they win the championship and then he leaves. He's still going to be beloved in Canada, because and the trade did work out for the Raptors regardless of whether he stays there or not, because they finally got the ultimate prize, right?
How about just go ahead and put your flag down, and then even if you didn't sign, even if you came back as a member of the Clippers, you'd still be revered. I mean, they probably have a special ceremony before the game. You can get your ring and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think you can probably say right now that he's already the stuff a legend up there.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you put everything into the mix, and you look at what he's done for Canada sports, the Raptors, the NBA in Canada and nationally, I mean, the one thing if you're Kawhi Leonard, you go to LA, you're just another big fish in that ocean.
Yeah.
You stay in Canada after winning a championship, you are king of the nation. You're probably the largest sports figure who doesn't wear skates in the history of that country. And just wrap your arms around that for a second. Kawhi Leonard being the face of basketball in that country. And he's 4 wins away from doing that.
Wow. An amazing story developing right now in the National Basketball Association. Jeff Fox talking to Mark Gray here on the Big O Show, 1210 The Man. Mark, how can Drake impact this series?
I said this locally. I said, it ain't about Drake. This is God's plan.
Clever words, yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, to me, I don't think he's going to impact Golden State, and I think he might want to shut up because, one thing about it, if Steph Curry can shoot down his brother, he gives less than a damn about Drake. He'll hit a 3-ball and start winding it up like Drake was, and probably go to the bench during the timeout and massage his coach's shoulders too. So I just think that Golden State has shown that they got a mental toughness and a fortitude about themselves to where, in the words of Charles Barkley, when he was playing, I believe, in Phoenix, and they were trying to take down the Rockets. He was like, they're not going to die. You're going to have to kill them. And that's really what's going to have to happen with Toronto. And the scary part about it is they got enough in the chamber to do it. It's scary. I think that the length on the perimeter is going to be something that, if they're not careful, that's going to be a real issue because as the series has gone along, the impact of Pascal Siakam, particularly defensively on the perimeter, makes it tough because I'm not quite sure Draymond's going to be able to outrun him and get to the rim the way that he did against Houston. And then his perimeter scoring kind of went to the next level in that series. So what it allowed Kawhi to do was get to the rim, and then he could kick the ball back outside. If Van Fleet is hitting his shot and Lowry does what he does, and then you got Ibaka, all he's got to do is get garbage. And, I'm not the biggest Serge Ibaka fan. I think that if Oklahoma City had to do it again, they should have kept Kevin Durant and, not paid Ibaka. But, it is what it is. And they would probably have championship by now. But I'm looking at that right now, and I'm thinking, they got bigs that can get out and defend. And if you can put a big out on, say, Steph Curry, and I don't know if you remember the year, and I forget the years they all run together at this age, but remember there was this guy that played at LSU, Tyrus Thomas, who got paid in the NCAA tournament for shutting down J.J. Redick, and he ended up going to the Bulls for a little while.
Right.
And I'm sensing that you put that big athletic body out there on the perimeter and let him, because I think he's got the quicks and the foot speed, and that's the thing that we don't appreciate from the African athletes and certainly the French players. Their first sport is soccer.
Right.
And they have incredible feet. They're not gangly stiffs who, are clumsy. Ain't no Roy Hibberts coming from over there who got to learn how to walk before they become millionaires. These guys are fluid, athletic players. And I'm anxious to see what Steve Kerr can come up with because that perimeter defense, much has been made about forming the wall to keep away from the penetration. I think the concern, if you're a Golden State fan, is the length that they have and the athletes, particularly Siakam and Ibaka, when they get out on the perimeter to defend. That's going to be a challenge for Golden State to get their shots. But much like Gail says, 6 inches of daylight is all that Clay and Steph need. And if they knocking down the shots, which I think is a big if, because, 10 days off reminds me a lot of like a baseball team who's going into the World Series after sweeping their way through. And then the other team has to go all the way in. And they may be blistering, hitting around 380. And then when the series starts, they hit like, 220 because they lost their edge. I'm wondering how the rest factor is going to play for Golden State. Will it lead to rest or rust? And how long will it take for them to shake the rust off? Because you may have to integrate, Boobie Cousins back into the lineup. That's somebody who's going to have to work off some rust, just the time off and not game situation. So, it's an interesting challenge, and I'm sick that we don't have any basketball. What happened to the days when we had basketball all Memorial Day weekend? Remember those days?
I remember the Memorial Day Massacre. When I thought, I remember that when the Celtics dropped the nuclear bomb on the Lakers, and Lakers came back to win the series. So,
right.
That's something that stays in your mind forever. Let me ask you something, Mark Gray. If the Warriors go on to win this title, which most people think they will, where will they rank among the great dynasties that we've seen? And I'm talking not only about the Celtics, but Michael Jordan's Bulls, Shaq and Kobe's Lakers. Where would this team rank?
Magic and Kareem's Lakers. I mean, let's be real for a second. What they win? I think they won 3 and 4 years or so, 5 and 6, 5 and 7 years. And one of those years, Magic had a bad hamstring and couldn't finish the series. And they had to play the last couple of games with the greatness that is David Rivers running the point guard. Much love to the former Notre Dame guy.
David Rivers.
Afro
I'm impressed by
Man.
you, sir.
Afro Man. And every time I watch a Black Klansman and I see John David Washington's hairdo, I think about David Rivers because it was so rapidly the same.
Man, you are a walking encyclopedia.
Yeah, worthless information, I know. But I think that, Golden State at that moment then takes its place amongst the great dynasties in all of sports. I mean, let's be real for a second.
Yeah.
How difficult it is to win 2 in a row. They would have won, 4 and 5 years, and would have had a fifth had it not been for a suspension by Draymond Green. And you'd really have no doubt. So to me right now, pardon the expression, they're ready to join the rarefied air.
Right.
Steve Kerr may have played with Michael Jordan, but and I know Scottie Pippen and Mike don't think that the way that they could play, the way they played then, Golden State wouldn't have a shot at beating them. But remember, Jordan had to do a lot of his work going to the rim and inside the paint.
Right.
They were going to force the teams in the old era to have to come out to the perimeter and defend, which would open up some lanes to the basket. But to me, we're looking at a series right now that comes down to basketball being exported in a way north of the border of Canada that has never been exported before. And it really gives a lot of those Canadian athletes who have to deal with a significant amount of racism who want to play hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And hockey to black athletes in Canada is kind of like baseball is to us. You only got a few percentage, and there's so many other players who don't get their shot for a variety of reasons that, limited them from getting their chance. But I look at Golden State as a team for the ages, on the cusp of being a team for the ages. I mean, everybody got their individual accolades. I don't know how to equate who's one of the best shooters ever. I mean, who's the best shooters from all time. I mean, you look at how good Rick Barry was, who wore them colors. He could shoot pretty damn good. Pete Maravich could shoot pretty damn good. Hell, so could Lou Hudson. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's tons of great shooters has been in the league, but we're looking at a team and a franchise and an organization from top to bottom that will rank as one of the great organizations of all time. This will be one of the greatest teams of all time. And everybody would have to bow down. And for as much attention as they get for adding on Kevin Durant, the core 3 players will have all been drafted. And just think about that for a second. We all want to talk about how great KD is. And, I'm a DMV guy. We knew Kevin Durant was going to be good. We didn't know he was going to be this good. But I look at the way that the Warriors have been put together. If they win it, and they win it under these circumstances, I mean, remember, man, the 2 guys that were supposed to get them over the top and make them unbeatable may not play in this series.
Right.
So if they win it with their
this
core,
would be legit.
It would be the 3rd time that they would have won it without Durant. And I mean, to me, that's why we love these games. We like to have the conversations about who was great and match them up all time historically. And I don't think that Golden State would have to take a back seat to anybody. Not even the Celtics, because I think there was only 8-10 teams in the league when the Celtics were dominating back in the day.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the multi-tiers of playoffs, nor was there free agency. And I think they were able to keep the Bulls together, with the exception of Mike having to take his hiatus to hit Control Alt Delete and reboot his career. So everything in a nutshell right now, bro. I think that it comes down to a nation embracing America's outdoor game versus a team of destiny or a team for the ages potentially. And again, I can't wait for it to tip it off. I know by the time that they tip off on Thursday night, I'll be sick of everybody screaming about it. But
hey,
nobody.
Man, I definitely look forward to the podcast we do every year. Again, David Steele from Sporting News, Scoop from ESPN, yourself, and myself. I certainly look forward to getting with you guys and putting these brilliant minds together. and seeing if we can come up with and get it right, because I'm leaning towards Golden State. I guess I have to because of the experience, But
I got them in 6.
Yeah,
I got them in 6 right now.
Okay.
Because if it goes back to Game 7 in Toronto, home court is going to be big.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Golden State can go back north of the border and get a Game 7, because I think Toronto is better than Houston. And I think I might have been the one that told you that Houston was going to run out of gas.
You certainly did.
Harden.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I could see that just the way that they approach the game. I'm not a big fan of the iso ball thing, but we're seeing that teams win championships built by organizations. Both of these teams built by their organizations. And let's just, what did Magic say back in the day? It's going to be a party. Let's just get ready to have some fun and do what you like. And
yes,
this is
sir.
what we like. If you I can't wait for them to get it on.
Yes, sir. It all tips off Thursday night in Toronto. We, the North, against the defending champs. Mark, great. Thank you so much for joining the show this afternoon, man. Appreciate you being there as usual, man, and look forward to the podcast.
Hey, man, shameless plug time. Log on to Facebook. Check out the Sports Groove Media Network between now and Thursday. I'm going to be posting straight, no chaser. That's where I just get it in all me for like 5 good minutes.
No doubt.
So you can check it out. And I have a little bit more research after I come out of this writing spell that I got to get through over the first 3 days of the week.
All right, my brother. Enjoy your Memorial Day holiday, man. Eat some more hot dogs and stuff.